The discovery. The driftwood wasn't much to look at. A patchwork salvage vessel cobbled together from the remains of 3 different ships. It drifted through the outer reaches of the Helios sector, its hull scarred by micrometeorite impacts and scorch marks from too many close calls. Inside, Captain Maya Chen stared at the main view screen, her dark eyes reflecting the starfield before her. "Nothing but dust and memories out here," she muttered, brushing a strand of black hair from her face. The Helios sector had been abandoned after the Vraxian Empire pushed humanity's borders back for the 3rd time in as many decades. What had once been thriving colonies were now ghost stations and derelict ships. "Captain, I'm picking up something on long-range scanners," called Ravi, her sensor operator. The young man's fingers danced across holographic controls, his brow furrowed in concentration. Metal signature. Large, definitely a ship. Maya leaned forward in her chair. "Vraxian? No, it's human design. Old human design." Ravi looked up, surprise evident on his face. Pre-contact era. Earth fleet markings. Her pulse quickened. Pre-contact ships were rare finds. The Earth fleet had been disbanded after the Galactic Concordat, replaced by the Joint Interspecies Defense Force. Most of the old warships had been decommissioned, stripped for parts, or retrofitted with alien tech. "Show me," she ordered. The view screen shifted, magnifying a distant object. Even from this range, Maya could see it was in rough shape. The vessel was angular, built in the days when humans still thought sharp edges and stealth mattered in space combat, before the Vraxians taught them otherwise. "It's an Artemis-class destroyer," said Dax, her Arcadian navigator. His translucent blue skin rippled with amusement. "Primitive human engineering. Hardly worth the fuel to tow it." Maya shot him a look. She'd hired Dax for his spatial awareness, not his commentary on human technology. The Arcadians had been spacefaring for 10,000 years before humans discovered fire. They found most species tech amusing at best. "Run the registry," Maya said, ignoring him. Ravi worked his console. "ES Pathfinder. Listed as lost during the Battle of Helios Prime, 30 years ago. Lost, not destroyed." Maya mused. That was interesting. "Any life signs?" "None. Power readings minimal. It's been adrift a long time, Captain." Maya made her decision. "Prep for boarding. Ravi, you're with me. Dax, keep the engines hot. If any Vraxian patrols show up, I want to be gone before they can target our engines." The Arcadian's skin darkened to a deep blue, his species equivalent of rolling his eyes. 30 years scavenging human wreckage, and you still get excited over ancient history. There are Concordat ships in the next sector with actual valuable tech. "Concordat salvage requires permits," Maya said, standing and checking her sidearm. "This is finders keepers, and Earth fleet ships were built to last." Built to last from what? Kinetic weapons. Railguns. Dax made a bubbling sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "The galaxy moved on, Captain. Even the Vraxians would consider this vessel obsolete." "Then they won't mind if we take it," Maya replied with a tight smile. 30 minutes later, Maya, Ravi, and their security chief, a burly ex-Marine named Cooper, were sealed in their EVA suits and crossing the void between the driftwood and the Pathfinder. The destroyer loomed before them, its hull pitted and scarred, but remarkably intact for a ship that had supposedly gone down in one of the bloodiest battles of the Second Praxian War. "Something's not right," Cooper muttered over the comm. "This ship doesn't look like it took heavy fire." Maya had noticed the same thing. The damage was consistent with micrometeorite impacts and radiation exposure, the consequences of drifting through space for decades. But there were no signs of the catastrophic damage that should have disabled an Artemis-class destroyer. They reached an auxiliary airlock, and Cooper went to work on the manual override. Despite Dax's dismissal of human engineering, the lock mechanisms were still functional. The outer door groaned open, revealing a small chamber beyond. "Pressure's negative," Ravi reported, checking his scanner. "But the inner hull is intact. We can repressurize the airlock. Once inside, Cooper sealed the outer door and initiated the repressurization sequence. Ancient systems coughed to life, startling all three of them. Power systems still work? Maya asked, surprised. Backup power cells, Cooper guessed. Earth fleet vessels had redundancies on their redundancies. The inner door slid open with a hiss, revealing a darkened corridor beyond. Their helmet lights illuminated dust particles suspended in the stale air. It was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that came from decades of emptiness. Main engineering is 2 decks down, Maya said, consulting the schematic on her wrist display. Let's see what we're working with. They moved through the ship cautiously. Emergency lighting flickered on as they passed, responding to motion or pressure sensors that had lain dormant for years. The Pathfinder was in remarkably good condition inside, no signs of battle damage. No emergency bulkheads sealed to contain breaches. It was as if the crew had simply left. I've got more power signatures, Ravi reported, his voice tight with excitement. Systems are initializing throughout the ship. It's like it's waking up. That's impossible, Cooper said. No ship maintains operational capability after 30 years adrift. Yet as they reached the main engineering section, it was clear something unusual was happening. Displays were flickering to life, status indicators shifting from red to amber. The massive drive core, primitive by current standards, but impressive for its era, hummed with latent energy. It's beautiful, Maya whispered, running a gloved hand over a console. Earth fleet engineering. Robust, overbuilt, and designed to function in the worst conditions imaginable. The kind of engineering the Vraxians had mocked right up until they realized how difficult human ships were to destroy. Captain, look at this, Ravi called from a nearby workstation. He was pointing at a display that showed a ship schematic unlike anything Maya had seen on an Artemis-class destroyer. What am I looking at? She asked, moving closer. I don't know. It's not in any database I've ever seen. Ravi's voice held a mixture of confusion and awe. This isn't standard Earth fleet tech. It's something else. The schematic showed modifications to the destroyer's hull and power systems, modifications that would have been theoretical at best when the Pathfinder was commissioned. There were notations in standard English, but the terminology was unfamiliar, referencing concepts Maya had never heard of. Phase inversion shielding, quantum displacement drive, she read aloud. This couldn't have existed 30 years ago. Cooper had moved to another console and was scrolling through ship logs. Captain, you need to see this. Last log entry, dated 3 days after the Battle of Helios Prime. Maya joined him, her breath catching as she read the log. Final test sequence complete. All systems nominal. The Pathfinder has exceeded expectations in every category. Quantum displacement drive functioning at 92% efficiency, far beyond theoretical projections. Phase inversion shielding successfully deflected all test bombardments, including Vraxian plasma cannons. With the fall of Helios Prime, our window of opportunity is closing. The Vraxians believe they've destroyed the Pathfinder along with the rest of the fleet. This deception gives us the element of surprise, but we must act before they consolidate their position. The ship is being placed in dormant mode. All crew will evacuate via stealth shuttles. The Pathfinder will remain here, hidden in the debris field, until Phase 2 can be initiated. When the time comes, the ship's systems are programmed to reactivate upon detecting authorized personnel. God help us if the Vraxians discover what we've built. The log was signed by Admiral Helena Reyes, a name Maya knew from history lessons. Reyes had been the architect of humanity's eventual counteroffensive against the Vraxians, a counteroffensive that had seemed miraculous in its sudden effectiveness. What the hell did we just find? Cooper whispered. Before anyone could answer, the ship's lighting suddenly brightened to full intensity. Displays throughout engineering came online, and a synthesized voice echoed through the compartment. Authorized personnel detected. Identity: Chen, Maya. Captain, Independent Salvage Vessel Driftwood. Earth Defense Force reserve status. Initiating revival protocols. Maya froze. How does it know who I am? Quantum scanner, Ravi said, looking at a display. It just ran your DNA against a database. The voice continued. All primary systems online. Quantum displacement drive initializing. Estimated time to full operational capacity, 3 hours. Captain, Ravi's voice had gone tight with alarm. We've got company. Vraxian patrol ship just dropped out of FTL. They're hailing us. Maya's mind raced. A Vraxian patrol finding them with an active Earth fleet destroyer, one with apparently classified technology, was the worst possible scenario. Put them through to my helmet, she ordered. A moment later, a harsh reptilian voice filled her ears. Attention human salvage vessel. You are operating in restricted space. The derelict you have boarded is now property of the Vraxian Empire. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. Maya looked around at the awakening ship, at the technology that had supposedly turned the tide of a war 3 decades ago, and made a decision that would change the course of human history. Cooper, how quickly can you get this ship's weapons online? Ravi, tell Dax to dock the driftwood to our starboard airlock and transfer all personnel aboard. Captain, Cooper said, his voice low, are you suggesting we steal an Earth fleet destroyer? Maya's eyes gleamed in the brightening lights of the ancient warship. Not steal, Cooper. Salvage. By maritime law that's prevailed for millennia. This ship is abandoned in space. Salvage rights belong to the finder. She smiled grimly. And I think the Vraxians are about to discover why humans never throw anything away. The destroyer's systems continued to awaken around them, as if the ship itself had been waiting 30 years the reckoning. We have 90 seconds before they're in weapons range, Cooper announced, his fingers flying across the tactical console. The Vraxian patrol ship, a sleek, predatory vessel 3 times the size of the Pathfinder, was closing fast, its weapons systems hot. Maya stood on the bridge of the ancient destroyer, surrounded by displays that were flickering to life after 3 decades of dormancy. Her salvage crew, now transferred from the driftwood, looked out of place among the utilitarian Earth fleet design. Dax, in particular, appeared distinctly uncomfortable in the human captain's chair where Maya had stationed him. Tell me we have engines, Maya said, gripping the command rail as the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated. Conventional drives at 30%, Ravi reported from the engineering station. Enough to maneuver, but we can't outrun them. What about the fancy quantum whatever? Dax asked, his translucent skin pulsing with anxiety. Ravi shook his head. Still initializing. 2 hours minimum. Vraxian vessel is hailing us again, said Ilara, their communications specialist. The young woman's hands trembled slightly as she worked her console. Put them on screen, Maya ordered. The main view screen flickered, revealing the interior of the Vraxian vessel. The commander was typical of his species, reptilian features, scaled skin the color of burnished copper, and eyes that reflected light like a predator's. He wore the distinctive black and silver uniform of the Imperial Guard. Human salvagers, the Vraxian said, his translator giving his voice a metallic quality. You have ignored our warning. That vessel is now property of the Empire. Power down and prepare to be boarded. Maya stepped forward, keeping her expression neutral. Commander, this is Captain Maya Chen of the independent salvage vessel Driftwood. We claim this derelict under Section 7 of the Galactic Concordat. Salvage rights in unclaimed space. The Vraxian's neck frill expanded slightly, a sign of amusement or contempt. This sector falls under Imperial protection by treaty. Your claim is invalid. You have 30 seconds to comply before we open fire. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Cooper, what kind of weapons do we have? Maya asked quietly. Basic point defense systems are online. Railguns charging. But main weapon systems are still cold. Cooper looked up from his console, his expression grim. We're outgunned, Captain. Maya turned to Ravi. What about those defensive systems mentioned in the logs? The phase inversion shielding. I'm trying, but the systems require authorization codes I don't have, Ravi said, frustration evident in his voice. The ship's synthetic voice suddenly interrupted. Threat detected. Vraxian Imperial Vessel designate Fang of Solar. Weapons systems active and targeting. Initiating defensive protocols. Before anyone could respond, displays throughout the bridge shifted to a combat configuration. Status indicators flashed from amber to green as dormant systems suddenly activated. Phase inversion shielding online, the synthetic voice announced. Quantum resonance array active. All defensive systems at full capacity. They're firing, Cooper shouted. Maya braced herself for impact, but it never came. On the tactical display, she watched as the Vraxian energy weapons struck something around the Pathfinder. Instead of the expected explosion, the energy seemed to ripple across an invisible barrier, dispersing harmlessly. What just happened? Maya whispered. The shields, Ravi said, staring at his display in disbelief. They didn't just block the attack, they absorbed it. Power levels are actually increasing. The Vraxian ship fired again, a sustained barrage that would have vaporized a modern human vessel. The Pathfinder shuddered slightly, but held firm. Quantum resonance array at optimal charge, the ship announced. Countermeasures ready. They can't hurt us, Cooper said, a slow smile spreading across his face. Whatever this shielding is, it's converting their energy weapons into usable power. Maya felt a surge of hope. Can we move? Conventional drives at 45% and climbing, Ravi confirmed. The absorbed energy is being rerouted to our systems. Get us out of here, Maya ordered. Best speed. The Pathfinder lurched forward, its ancient engines growling as they pushed the vessel away from the Vraxian patrol ship. On the tactical display, Maya watched the enemy vessel adjust course to pursue. They're launching fighters, Cooper warned. 6 small craft, heavily armed. Can the shields handle them too? Maya asked. Unknown, Ravi admitted. But there's something else we might try. I'm finding references to a defensive weapon system called the reflection array. What does it do? According to these specs, Ravi said, scrolling through data, it reflects enemy weapons back at them. I'm not sure how that's possible, but... Vraxian fighters in weapons range, Cooper interrupted. Impact in 5 seconds. Activate the array, Maya ordered. Ravi hit a sequence of commands just as the fighters opened fire. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The energy beams struck the Pathfinder shields, but instead of being absorbed, they rebounded at angles that sent them straight back toward the fighters. 2 of the Vraxian craft exploded instantly, caught in their own weapons fire. Holy! Cooper breathed. It worked. The remaining fighters broke formation, clearly confused by what had happened. The main Vraxian vessel had slowed its pursuit, its commander likely reassessing the situation. They're hailing us again, Ilara announced. Maya nodded, and the Vraxian commander appeared on screen. His neck frill was fully extended now, a sign of agitation. What trickery is this? He demanded. That vessel could not have operational defenses. As you can see, Commander, you're mistaken, Maya replied coolly. This obsolete human ship is fully functional. I suggest you withdraw before my crew becomes more familiar with its offensive capabilities. The Vraxian's eyes narrowed to slits. This is not over, human. The Empire will. A new voice cut through the transmission. Captain Chen, I recommend immediate withdrawal from this sector. Maya turned to see a figure standing at the rear of the bridge, a holographic projection of a woman in an Earth Fleet Admiral's uniform. End transmission, the hologram ordered, and the screen went black before Maya could react. Who are you? Maya demanded, her hand moving instinctively toward her sidearm. Admiral Helena Rice, Earth Fleet Intelligence, the hologram replied. Or rather, a quantum-imprinted interactive simulation thereof. I am the Pathfinder's command intelligence. Maya's crew stared in shock. Helena Reyes was a historical figure, a hero of the Vraxian Wars who had died over a decade ago. "That's impossible," Maya said. "AI of this sophistication wasn't developed until years after this ship was lost." The hologram smiled slightly. "That's what the public was told. The truth is more complicated, as you're beginning to discover." She gestured toward the tactical display, where the Vraxian vessel was being joined by two larger ships. "We have approximately 12 minutes before those battlecruisers are in range. I suggest we use that time to reach the Helios Rift, where we can safely activate the quantum displacement drive." "Why should we trust you?" Cooper asked. "For all we know, this could be an elaborate trap." "A reasonable concern," the Reyes hologram acknowledged, "but unnecessary. If the Vraxians capture this vessel, they will finally obtain the technology they've sought for 3 decades, technology that humanity has carefully kept from them since the Battle of Helios Prime." Maya studied the hologram carefully. "What exactly is this ship? It's not just an Artemis-class destroyer, is it?" "No," Reyes admitted. "The Pathfinder was our prototype, the first of what would have been a new class of vessels incorporating technology recovered from the precursor ruins on Titan." Maya's breath caught. The Titan ruins were discovered shortly before first contact, but all research had supposedly been halted after the Concordat was signed. "That's impossible," Dax interjected, his Arcadian features contorted with disbelief. "The Concordat specifically forbade any species from weaponizing precursor technology, which is precisely why the project was classified at the highest level," Reyes explained. "When the Vraxians launched their surprise attack on Helios Prime, they believed they were simply eliminating a strategic human outpost. In reality, they nearly discovered our research facility. We evacuated the Pathfinder during the chaos of battle, leaving it dormant until it could be safely recovered. But no one ever came back for it," Maya said, understanding dawning. "The political situation changed. The Concordat was signed. Peace, of a sort, was established. Reyes's holographic features hardened. But some of us never trusted the Vraxians. We left fail-safes in place, ships like the Pathfinder, waiting to be found if they were ever needed again." A proximity alarm shrieked, interrupting the conversation. Cooper checked his display. 6 more Vraxian fighters, coming in fast. They've adapted their attack pattern. "Time to see what this ship can really do," Maya decided. "Ravi, plot a course for the Helios Rift. Cooper, find us some weapons. Dax, I need maximum power to engines." As her crew scrambled to comply, Maya turned back to the Reyes hologram. "I want to know everything about this ship's capabilities. No more secrets." The hologram nodded. The Pathfinder's primary function was never direct combat. It was designed as a countermeasure, a means of neutralizing Vraxian technological advantages. The reflection technology, phase inversion, is merely a secondary application. The ship's true purpose lies in its quantum resonance array. The Vraxians' most powerful weapons operate on principles of quantum entanglement. The array can detect those signatures and disrupt them, not just for a single ship, but across an entire fleet. Maya's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "It's a fleet killer." "It's a deterrent," Reyes corrected, "one that humanity hoped never to use." The ship shuddered as the first Vraxian fighters began their attack run. This time, the phase inversion shields didn't simply reflect the energy. They seemed to absorb and redirect it in complex patterns that confused the targeting systems of the pursuing craft. "We're approaching the Helios Rift," Ravi announced. 30 seconds. On the tactical display, Maya watched as the Vraxian battlecruisers adjusted course to intercept. They would reach weapons range just as the Pathfinder entered the rift, a swirling region of space-time distortion that would normally be suicide to enter. "Quantum displacement drive at full capacity," the ship announced. "Ready for activation." "The cruisers are charging their main cannons," Cooper warned. "Those are quantum phase disruptors. They'll tear through any conventional shielding." "But not ours," Maya realized. She turned to the Reyes hologram. "If they fire those weapons, Can the quantum array affect all of them at once? The hologram smiled grimly. That was precisely what it was designed to do. Maya made her decision. Reduce speed. Let them catch up. Captain. Dax looked at her as if she'd lost her mind. Trust me, Maya said. Ravi, prepare to activate the quantum resonance array at my command. Target all Vraxian vessels. The Pathfinder slowed, allowing the battle cruisers to close the distance. On the view screen, Maya watched as the massive vessels moved into formation, their weapon ports glowing with building energy. They're preparing to fire, Cooper said, his voice tight. Impact in 5 seconds. Now, Ravi, Maya ordered. The quantum resonance array activated, sending out an invisible pulse that washed over the approaching Vraxian fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the glowing weapon ports on the enemy ships flickered and died. The battle cruisers themselves began to drift, their engines sputtering out. What did we just do? Maya asked, staring at the disabled fleet. The array detected the quantum signatures of their weapons and propulsion systems and induced a cascading failure, the Reyes hologram explained. They're dead in space, temporarily. The effect will last approximately 30 minutes. Long enough, Maya said. Ravi, activate the quantum displacement drive. Get us out of here. The Pathfinder's engines hummed with a sound unlike anything Maya had heard before, not the roar of conventional drives, but a deep, resonant pulse that seemed to vibrate through reality itself. The stars on the view screen stretched and blurred, and then they were elsewhere, hundreds of light years away in an instant. Jump successful, Ravi reported, his voice filled with awe. We're in the Procyon system. No sign of pursuit. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Secure from battle stations. I want a full inventory of this ship's systems and capabilities. As her crew set to work, Maya found herself standing before the hologram of Admiral Reyes. You've done well, Captain Chen, the hologram said. Better than we could have hoped. What happens now? Maya asked quietly. The Vraxians know this ship exists. They'll be hunting for us. Yes, Reyes agreed. But they won't find you easily. And by the time they do, we'll understand exactly what we salvage, Maya finished. She looked around the bridge of the ancient destroyer, a vessel that represented humanity's ingenuity and foresight, hidden away until it was needed most. Admiral Reyes planned for this moment, the hologram said, its voice softer now. She believed that someday humanity would need to level the playing field against the Vraxians. That technology alone would never be enough. We would need courage and conviction as well. Maya nodded slowly, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The Vraxians called this ship obsolete, primitive, just another piece of human garbage floating in space. A common misconception among older species, the hologram observed. They believe that technology must be sleek, elegant, advanced. They forget that function matters more than form. That durability sometimes outweighs sophistication. Human engineering, Maya said with a small smile, built to last. And now, the hologram of Helena Reyes said, looking out at the stars, built to change everything. In the vast emptiness of space, the Pathfinder, once thought lost, once dismissed as obsolete, continued its journey. Inside, a salvage captain and her crew began to unravel the secrets of humanity's hidden legacy. And across the galaxy, in the chambers of the Vraxian High Command, alarms were already sounding. The discarded history of humanity had just become its greatest weapon, and the galaxy would never be the same again.